Hi everybody. Just following on from some of you were asking for me to do another walkthrough. So anytime you want me to do a walkthrough of something, just let us know, and when I can, I will. We're going to have a look today at shop version 1. So I know I might say things that make complete sense to me, but if they don't make sense to you, just let me know, because we all figure things out differently and we all need to hear slightly different words sometimes. So the words that I sometimes use, as I say, make sense to me. If they don't make sense to you, let me know. And we'll see what we can do. We can see, can we come up with another example or another analogy, just to make it so that you're hearing the same message but with different voices or different words, if that makes sense, because that's sometimes what you need. You need to be able to hear it, find something that makes sense to you. And when it makes sense to you, then everything clicks. But that can take a while. And I wouldn't be worrying or concerned in any way, shape, or form if it hasn't quite clicked with you. Programming is like every other skill. You have to practice. And anybody who has tried to play hurling, and tried to do any of those lifts, roll lifts or whatever they are, I personally can't do them, but that's just me. But I spent ages with the kids outside trying to figure it out, and I did get better after a while. But my children would be saying, "No, Mom, you need to put the hurl on this way, and it needs to roll it back, and then you push this." And to them, they were just doing it all in one beautiful motion, and I was just spending too much time overthinking where the ball was supposed to be in relation to the hurl, rather than like letting it flow. But I got it in the end, kind of. But maybe I'm not a great example of a skill. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is you have to keep practicing, and when you keep practicing, it will come eventually. It comes quicker for other people, so some people will pick it up straight away and they'll be fine. Others, it'll take a little bit longer. But if you keep going, you will get there. Okay. So anyway, let's get going on shop. So where are we? So we'll keep my head for a second. So we're going to go to our shop. So this is our tutors here. So we're starting off with shop version 1. So I've created a new project, shop version 1. I say where I want to be, where I'm going to put it. I'm not creating it as a Git repository yet because we haven't done Git, but that would be if I wanted to keep it in a vault, and I'm not going to do that at the moment. Don't need to change anything else. I'm not adding in sample code, so I'm just going to press create. And strange, but nothing happened. That's not very good, is it? So let's try that again. So I go new project. Okay, so I'm going to go shop version 1.0, and I'm going to go create. Okay, so I want to have a new window, and this is it here. Okay, so we have our project down our left hand side. So you can see here we have our blue source folder, and we said that our source folder is blue. That's where we put our code in. So I'm going to go straight away. I know what I have to do here. I have to create a product and a driver. So I'm just going to create those. So I right click on source. I'm creating my Java class. I'm creating my Java class called product. So in here, I'm going to put all the information that I need to save about a product. So the price of a product, the name of the product, the description of the product, whether it's in my current list or not. So that's where we're going to put our product. And then we're creating this driver. And again, it's just a name that we're given to a class. And in this driver, all the code is going to be the code that interacts with the product and interacts with the user. So this is the code that's going to drive our project. Okay, so again, different names. You might call it main, you might call it controller, you might call it whatever, but it's just a name and we're calling it driver. So let's start with product. So I double click on product. I can see I have it highlighted over there. I'm just going to get rid of this here so that we have more room. So again, what I did there was I just clicked the minus and I hit it. And if I want to get it back, I click my folder here. Okay, so this is my class. It's public, it's a class, it's called product. So let's have a look and see what it's asking us to do. So it's asking us in the product class for private instant fields. So why are they private? Because we said that we hide the data and we only, it's one of the rules of encapsulation, we only show the data through public methods. So that's the public interface. So we're going to create a string called product name. Oops, it does help if I could spell. I'm not great. A string called product name. We're going to create an int for the product code. We're going to create a double for the unit cost. So remember, double is a data type that can store decimal points, and a boolean for in current product line, and a boolean is true or false in current product line, and our semicolon, and it's boolean. So these are our 4 fields. So when you think of a product, you think of all the information that you want to store about that product, and we will start with that. If we wanted to give them defaults, we could here. So let's say the unit cost, the product code is always 1,000 or something like that. So we could give defaults if we wanted to, but at the moment we're just saying when we create an object that's going to be a product. So when I create that bottle of water, or I'm going to sell a phone or whatever it is, it's going to have a name, it's going to have a cost, it's going to have a code, and it's going to be whether I'm going to sell it in my shop or not, if that's the case. Okay. So there, so it says here, write a constructor for the class that takes 4 instant fields. It says no need for validation yet. Write a getter, a setter, a toString. So what's a constructor? So a constructor is the code that we write to build an object. And we said that unless we build the object, we can't use it. So if you think of your plan for your house, you can have the most beautiful plans, but unless you take that plan and build it, there's no house. There's just a plan for a house. So this is just a plan for our product. It's the class definition of our product. So we need to build it. So we're going to create a constructor. In Java, we create constructors. We say that they're special types of methods. They don't have a return type. They can take no parameters or many parameters. If they take no parameters, it's our default. If they take many parameters, that's when we give each of these their initial values. So if I wanted to, I can be a bit lazy, because we've said before IntelliJ is an IDE, and that's a development environment, so that has little helps to us along the way. So one of them is if we right click and we go to generate, we can generate what we're looking for. So we want to generate a constructor. It's asking us what parameters do we want in our constructor. We were told here that we're going to take the 4 parameters. So I'm going to hold down my up arrow, and so my shift key. I'm holding down my shift and I'm clicking on the first and the last, and that will allow me to create a constructor that has all of those in it. So you can see here that this is my constructor. It has a product name, it's a product code, a unit cost, and a boolean. So when I create my product object, I'm going to pass it in 4 values. The next thing it tells us to do is to get a getter for each instance. Again, slightly on the lazy side, I can go to generate and I can generate my getter. Again, I'm holding down my shift and I can create all of those. And remember what our getters are, because and I never did it. These are all private. So we said they're private because, I'll just type it. They're hidden and they can only be accessed through our public methods. So our public getters, which we have here. And if we go down and right click again and go generate our public setters. Again, I'm holding the shift and there they all are there. So these are our fields. We access them through public methods, so our public interface, but we can't access them directly. We must go through our getters and our setters. Our getters just get the value. So it just takes the value that's stored there. Our setters take a value in and update the value that's stored with the new value. And we can add in validation here to ensure that any old junk isn't stored. So like what we said when we had our Elon Musk, we could say that the value has to be greater than 0. You can't withdraw an amount if the amount isn't there. So that's where we're going to put our validation, but we're not going to do that at the moment. So now we have our constructor, we have our getters, we have our setters, and the last thing we want to do is our toString. So again, lazy, I'm going to go down here, right click, I'm going to generate, and I'm going to generate my toString. Again, I can choose what I want to have in it, and I say okay, and you can see that IntelliJ is ever so kind, and it generates this string for us. We can go in and change it if we want to if we want. So we can make it look whatever way we want it to look. These are just words that appear. So anything that's in green is what is the English that's written to the screen, or the words that are written to the screen. What's in that kind of purpley color is it's taking the value that's stored in that variable, in that field, sorry. So it's going to take whatever we have added for product name, and it's going to print it off. It's going to take whatever we have added for product code, for the unit cost, and whether it's in the product line. So we could say currently, and that'll come back as true or false. So we can change this in whatever way we want to change it. But when we generate it, it just generates a generic kind of a string for us, and it's up to us whether we want to keep it like that or whether we want to change it. So if we have a look at what we've been asked to do, we've been asked to create 4 fields. We were asked to make them private, which I didn't bother doing the first time because I forgot, so sorry. We say that our fields are private because they're going to be hidden. So we're hiding the implementation. We're hiding what happens in the box, like when Mairead talked about the sound system. And we're just showing it a public interface. So we're saying, if you want to create a new object, a new product, and you have to pass me the name, the code, the unit cost, and whether it's in the product line, and I'll do the rest. At this moment, there's no validation, so I can change this. It won't make any difference to what the public person sees. They'll be just still expected to pass it in string, int, double, boolean. The getters, we're going to call those when we want to see the code. And the setters, we're going to call those when we want to update the value that's already stored. And the toString is going to be called when we want to have a string, in English, I keep saying English, but whatever the language is that you're using, in this case it's English, English definition of the product. Okay, so that's our driver. And you can see that once I had created these 4 fields, Java helped me out quite a lot and did it for me. So the fact that I'm generating them is perfect. Just make sure that you understand what's occurring when they're generated. So this is our constructor. It expects these values. It just sets those values. This is my getter. It's going to return a string, and the string it's going to return is the product name that's stored. This is my setter. It returns nothing, but expects me to pass it a string, and it's going to take that string and it's going to update the product name that's stored for this object with whatever's being passed in. Okay, and then our toString. So again, you want to make sure that when you generate them, you understand. So that's our product class. So let's have a look and see what our driver class is telling us. It says in the driver class, create 2 private instance fields. So let's go back here. So it's telling us to create 2 fields, one called input. So it's a private. So private because it's only been used inside a scanner and it's only of use to scanner. So it's a private to the implementation. So we're using our scanner class. We're calling it input. Now you can see there that scanner has turned in red. So if I go back here, I can hover my mouse over it and it's telling me, do you want to import the class? Yes, I do. And then it imports java.util.scanner for me. Okay. So equals new scanner. And I'm passing it to that scanner constructor. I'm passing it system.in, which means the keyboard is my input device. And the other one was a private instance of product. So again, it's private. I'm telling it that I'm going to have an object of type product, and I'm going to call that object product with small p. Okay. If you're confused because product with small p, product with a big P, when we have an array, we're going to call it products with an S. If you don't want to do that, just give it a different name. Call it product object. So do you mind? Well, actually you can't answer me because it's a video, but I'm going to just change this to product object. Oops, that's not what I want to change it to. I want to change it to product object. Okay, and the reason for that is I just want to show the difference between the small p and the big P. So it's just a name. We're saying that I'm creating an object and I'm calling that object product object, and it's a product. So we haven't actually built it yet because we only build it when we call the constructor, and that's when we call the new. Okay, so that's our fields. In here, it asks us to write an add method that asks the user to input the current details of the product, the name, whatever it is. Okay, so let's do that. Make sure that when you're writing between these curly brackets. This is the curly bracket for the start of the class and the curly bracket for the end of the class. Okay. So I'm going to, oh my God, gosh. So I'm going to create my method. So it's called add product. Okay, it asks the user, it doesn't return anything. So it's void add product. It doesn't expect anything. We're just going to call it and it'll do all the job. It knows what it has to do. Okay, I'm a little bit lazy. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in. Okay. So you can see here that we're asking the user to enter the product name. We're using our input object. I'll get rid of my head there for a sec. We're using our input object to read next line, and we're storing whatever the user enters in this field called product name. Sorry, so I'm going to call this a variable because that's what it is. So when we create something up here, so they're called fields. Their fields belong to the class. When we create in here in my add product or in a method, I'm going to call those variables because they're just there for the lifetime of that method. They're not something that we are storing about the object. They are just being used in here inside of this block of code. So we're creating a variable called product name. So we're just creating a space in memory called product name, and whatever the user enters, we're storing it in there. We're asking the user to enter the code. We're creating a space in memory called product code, and whatever the user enters, we're storing it in there. We're asking to enter the unit cost. We're creating a space in memory called unit cost, and whatever the user enters, we're storing it in here. Okay, so that's fairly okay. These are just variables. They're just used for the lifetime of this block of code. There's no input.next true or false. So what we're doing for that is we're going to ask the user to enter a yes or a no. And depending on whether they enter a Y or an N is whether we're going to have a true or a false. So we're asking them, is it in the product line? We're using our input object, we're calling the method .next. That returns a string, so it returns a string, and then we're saying, for that string, give me the character at element 0. So give me the first character. And that's what we're storing in current product. If we enter yes, we're going to store Y. If we enter yeah, we'll store Y. If we enter no, it's N. Nope, it's N. Nah, it's N. Okay, so we're just storing the first character. Then we have our little if statement, and we're saying if this current product that we've after entering, oh sorry, I've skipped 19. So we're creating our true or a false, and we're just assigning it false. So we're giving an assumption that it's always false, and then we're going to change it. If the user enters a Y, we'll change that from false to true. So it defaults false, but if the user enters yeah or yes or yay, then it'll be a true. So now we're changing that Boolean to true, and then we're going to build our product object. So remember up top, I changed it from product to product object. And I'm calling that constructor. So we're calling this here. It expects a string, an int, a double, and a Boolean. I'm passing it a string, an int, a double, and a Boolean. It doesn't care about the names. It doesn't care whether you've called this product name, P name, the name, my name, your name. It's a name. All it cares is that's a string, that's an int, that's a double, and that's a Boolean. And when it has values that match what it's expecting, well, then it's right. So again, be careful that you are adding them in the right order. It has to be in the order that it's expecting. String, int, double, Boolean. Okay, so here we've created our new object. So that's in our add. So we'll go down here. So the method has a print product that prints all the information. So we're going to create print product. So again, it's void. We're just calling it, so it's print product. And we're going to have a system.out. So we're going to print out. So like what Marie told you, if you type SOUT and press tab, and then we're going to print out that object that we have here. Now remember, if I say print product object or I say product object dot toString, it prints the same thing. So I don't need to specify toString. Java is clever in that it knows if I just say the object, it knows that I want the toString. Okay, so then we have a main method. So again, I'm just going to copy this. I can put that main method wherever I want. I kind of always put it up here because it's at the start. I think it makes sense. You have your fields and your main, and then you've got your methods. But again, it's personal. You could have put that at the end. It doesn't matter. So we said that when we have a public static void main, that's the starting point. Java looks for that to start. Now there was a question about this line here. Driver equals new driver. What the hell am I doing there? So this is my class called driver. So why am I making this small d thing with a driver? I have to make, in this case, an object to be able to use the methods, to be able to see the fields. I have to be able to use, I have to create an object. So think about it. Again, going back to our house. If we have a house plan, until the house is built, we can't do anything to it physically. We can't open the door. We can't open the windows. We can't cook a meal. So we have to build the object before we can use its methods. Here, that's what we're doing. we're building the object. We're calling our constructor driver. We're building the object. And now we have the object. We can call its methods. We can call add product. We can call print product. Person. If whoever had a blueprint for a person and before we were born, there was a little design of what we were going to look like, until we were constructed, we couldn't cry, we couldn't move our arms. So they're all the things, and that's what we do on a daily basis. So this is what we're doing in our code. Until we create our object, we can't see the methods that are there. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. So enter the product name. I'm a lover of milk, so we'll start with milk. The code is 123. The cost is 45.99. Milk has gone so expensive lately, and it is in my product line. And you can see that it's printing out that toString that we wrote. This product name is equal to milk. Code is equal to 123. Go away. Unit cost is 45.99 and currently for sale is true. So that's what it's going to print out. If I don't like it, I go into my product. I change the toString. So if I wanted that to be on a new line, I could say \n. \n. So \n is a shortcut for a new line. So now when I run it, again, I can use my milk. My code is 123. The cost, a bit cheaper this time. And yes, it is. So now when it's printed off, you can see it prints everything onto a new line. Okay, so you can have a play with that and see how you get going with shop version 1. Where am I? So yeah, so see how you get going with shop version 1. Play with it, add the validation. So we said that, we don't want to store junk. So if we were going to add validation for the price, we'd make sure that the price of milk couldn't be a minus value. If we wanted to store it for the product code, we might say, okay, the product code has to be 4 numbers. So it has to be between 1,000 and 9,999 or whatever it is that you want to do. Play with the validation, play with the setters, change it, the constructor, understand what they are doing. Because if you understand them now, then when you go on to shop version 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and I think 7, it will make things a little bit easier. Okay, best of luck and give me a shout if you want me to do anything else. Okay, talk to you soon.